Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. Got a few folks here with us today, I see. I'm only seeing the chat through StreamYard, so that's going to lag quite a bit behind, I believe. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today here on this Good Friday today. We are gathered here today, oh dearly beloved, to celebrate the fact that we ain't got fuck all to do. And so, as a result, we are going to listen to some dork in a cardigan. Hey, alias fake name, welcome, my friend. Read from the most detestable book ever written. As I am trying to remember to impart at the beginning of these streams, we cover the Bible on this channel, which makes it 100% not safe for children. This is a bad book, should not be taught to children or sold to children, and certainly should not be analyzed in front of children. So if you under 18, you need to skittle-scattle on your way. Wonder Lady says, what is Good Friday? Good Friday is the day on which Jesus, traditionally, was crucified. Maundy Thursday is the day before when the Lord's Supper first took place, from which we take the sacrament of Holy Communion. Then he died on Good Friday, traditionally at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is why we are getting started at this particular time, because I have a slightly perverse sense of humor. Then he spent Holy Saturday in the grave, and then rose from the dead on Easter Sunday morning. So, happy Lich Carpenter weekend. Had to make sure I got that right, or one ring would come a knocking, tell me I had messed up by calling him a zombie. Mr. Chatty, I can talk, I promise. Mr. Shadow Kitty says, every Friday is good in my home. Yeah, you ain't never lied. Good Friday's on a different date every year, though. This is true, Wonder Lady. That is because Easter is on a different day every year. Because Easter is calculated as being the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. But remember, it has no pagan origins. It is 100% a Christian holiday. I try not to smoke on other people's streams, but sometimes I will smoke on mine. And since I am doing my best to make this a sinful weekend, true. His stepdad was a carpenter, but since we have no record of his being an itinerant rabbi until he was about 30, it would be remarkable indeed were he not raised in the family trade. Yeah, that's a lot to fit in one comment, Amiga Nuts. Well done. Let's see. Critical Cripple giving out hugs. Somebody may have sneaked in without me noticing it. Shout out in the chat if I hadn't said hello to you. I try to say hello to everybody. All right, so let's see, just minor housekeeping so far. We are now at Wonder Lady got the idea that he was a street magician. That's entirely possible. Nerdy wants to know what sort of crucifixion we are doing today. Well, we're not doing an Easter themed thing because I don't give a rat's ass about Easter. We are continuing our plunge through the book of 2 Samuel. So buckle in. I see people shouting out Mama Atheist in the chat, but she snuck in without me noticing. So hi, Mama. Alrighty. We turn today. Did I have housekeeping? Oh, just to squee a little bit that we're up to 104 subscribers here in the library as of this morning, and I am just absolutely tickled, positively pink. I could not be happier or more confused that there's 104 people out there who want to listen to some dork in a messy room read from the Bible and then riff on it. I love it, but I don't understand it. Is there a collection plate? There is not a collection plate, but there is a link to my Patreon down in the description. If you would like to join the one and only Paul in the ranks of those contributing financially to our efforts here in the library, that option is open to you. How's that for a segue? Wonder Lady says, yeah, we need 104 people here right now. I will not oppose that thought. Anybody who comes in, I'm going to be going for a little while. I'm kind of feeling it today. Anybody who comes in is, of course, welcome. Be they theist, anti-theist, atheist, agnostic, confused, or otherwise. With one exception, and we all know who it is. All right. If you will turn in your pew Bibles to chapter 5 of the book of 2 Samuel, we will launch in and see what the good book has in store for us today. Thank you for dropping links in the chat, Dave. Dave's always on top of things. Yeah, and make sure you subscribe to Julie. You got to keep up on that wine and reason. It's great content over there, and I don't say it just because I'm married to her. Chapter 5. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, thou wast he that leddest out and broughtest in Israel. And the Lord said to thee, Thou shalt feed my people Israel, and thou shalt be a captain over Israel. So all the elders of Israel came to the king in Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. 30 years old, sweet Jesus. Sorry, he's had a busy life already. And he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. And the king and his men went to Jerusalem unto the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, which spake unto David, saying, Except thou take away the blind and the lame, thou shalt not come in hither, thinking, David cannot come in hither. Nevertheless, David took a stronghold of Zion, the same is the city of David. And David said on that day, Whosoever getteth up to the gutter, and smiteth the Jebusites, and the lame and the blind that are hated of David's soul, he shall be chief and captain. Wherefore they said, The blind and the lame shall not come into the house. So David dwelt in the fort, and called it the city of David. And David built round about from Millo and inward. And David went on and grew great, and the Lord God of hosts was with him. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons, and they built David an house. And David perceived that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. And David took him more concubines and wives out of Jerusalem, after he was come from Hebron, and there were yet sons and daughters born to David. And these be the names, oh hell. And these be the names of those that were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shammua, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Solomon. Ibhar also, and Elishua, and Nepheg, and Japhia, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphalet. But when the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel, all the Philistines came up to seek David. And David heard of it, and went down to the hold. The Philistines also came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go up to the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into mine hand? And the Lord said unto David, Go up, for I will doubtless deliver the Philistines into thine hand. And David came to Baal Perazim, and David smote them there, and said, The Lord hath broken forth upon mine enemies before me as the breach of waters. Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Perazim. And there they left their images, and David and his men burned them. And the Philistines came up yet again, and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And when David inquired of the Lord, he said, Thou shalt not go up, but fetch a compass behind them, and come upon them over against the mulberry trees. And let it be, when thou hearest the sound of a going in the tops of the mulberry trees, then thou shalt bestir thyself, for then shall the Lord go out before thee, to smite the host of the Philistines. And David did so, as the Lord had commanded him, and smote the Philistines from Geba until thou comest to Gazer. There we have the 5th chapter of 2 Samuel. 2 more massacres, 3 if you count the lame and the blind. Let's see what we got going in the chat. Oh yes, who is Molly? Yes, now we know who is Molly. Wonder Lady says I should be an audiobook voice. I think that would work. I am immensely flattered by that. You have no idea how insecure I am about this voice. So really and truly and from the heart, thank you for that compliment. That is not thank you. Sorry. The mail has come. All right, let's see here. Is there anything that I missed while I was massacring the lame and the blind? Nerdy's up for some raging anti-theism. Well, just you wait. You never know what's going to set off my raging button. Oh, hey, Paul. Paul Lev 11. Smote is my favorite verb. Yes. Oh, thank you, Faye. Thank you yet again. All right, so more smiting of the Philistines, once from before, like any other army, and once from behind, hidden amongst the mulberry trees. Now, what was this business about smiting the blind and the lame? Hated of David's soul. Just want to make sure I read that correctly. David said, this is verse 8, And David said on that day, Whosoever getteth up to the gutter, and smiteth the Jebusites, and the lame and the blind that are hated of David's soul, he shall be chief and captain. Okay. Well, I guess we can add blamed fuckers and blamed fuckers, blind fuckers and lame fuckers to the vast catalog of these doth the Lord hate, or at least these doth David hate. 30 some odd years old and as bigoted against lame people as he is against Philistines, though he has yet to sacrifice them in order to retrieve their foreskins as a dowry. Remember that happened. Amiganut says, so much smiting. Yeah, Welcome to the Old Testament, baby. Smiting all over the place. Let's see, I meant to pull up a banner for that. That was 2 Samuel 5. We're about to need the one for 2 Samuel 6. You know, I moved the computer onto this stool so it wouldn't waggle around all over the place while I was monkeying with it, but I've got two short legs on this stool, so I'm still having the same problems. Welcome to the library. It ain't one damn thing, it's another. Wonder Lady says, she's the captain. Okay. Aye, aye, captain. Feel like I may have missed something, but that's okay. Oh, goodness sakes. You ever have those mornings where there's just not enough coffee in the world? And yes, I know it's 3 in the afternoon. My time. God only knows what time it is for Dave and Math Pig and all. Foreskin fetish again. Just can't get away from it. Nope. Our God is a weird, weird God. He weirds from heaven above with weirdness, power, and love. Our God is a weird, weird God. Alrighty. And more concubines and more sons and more daughters, but remember we don't get those named. It's 2117 from Math Pig, 2100 for Paul. Oh, well, yeah, I appreciate you coming to visit with me here in the middle of the night. I'm much appreciative of that. Nothing like a few biblical massacres to tide you over on your way to bed, right? Alrighty. What was? Oh, yes, yes. More sons and daughters born to David, and only the sons being named, but one of those sons being Solomon, who we know we will revisit again. 2118. It was 2100 hours when I started. Okay, that makes more sense. Tony Designs in the house. Hello, Tony. Welcome, welcome, my friend. Tony's been with me a long, long time. He has put up with so much mayhem and foolishness and so many different iterations of that. This channel and the setup and the technology and the every other damn thing. And yet he's still sticking around. I appreciate it. I really and truly do. All right, chapter 6. Let's see what Mr. David gets up to now. Again David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people that were with him from Baalah of Judah to bring up from thence the ark of God, whose name is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, that dwelleth between the cherubims. And they set the ark of God upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Gibeah, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drave the new cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps, and on psalteries, and on timbrels, and on cornets, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of God. And David was displeased, because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and said, How shall the ark of God come to me? So David would not remove the ark of the Lord unto him into the city of David, but David carried it inside. carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of the Lord continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David, saying, The Lord hath blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and all that pertaineth unto him, because of thy ark of God. So David went up and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. And it was so, that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And David danced before the Lord with all his might. And David was girded with a linen ephod. Drink. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of the Lord, and set it in his place, in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, to every one a cake of bread, and a good piece of flesh, and a flagon of wine. So the people departed, every one to his house. Then David returned to bless his household. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David, and said, How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today to the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself. David said unto Michal, It was before the Lord, which chose me before thy father, and before all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the people of the Lord over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord. And I will be yet more vile than this, and will be base in mine own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child unto the day of her death. And there we have the 6th chapter of 2 Samuel. Humph! Oh, hey, Robert X. Welcome, welcome. I tell you what. Robert X, like most of us these days, is having a little trouble with the YouTube notifications. I tell you a good way around that. Go down into the description and join my Discord. And if you do that, you can chat amongst the other people who are down there in that strange little realm. And you will also get a notification whenever a new video drops. And because I'm using StreamYard, and because the robot that lives in my Discord doesn't understand how StreamYard works, it will give you a notification whenever I set up a stream, which is sometimes as many as hours before. Amiga Nut says the dialogue is terrible and needs a rewrite. Yeah, well, that's most of the book, isn't it? A bit of tea in Danish. Hi, Linda. Welcome, welcome. I know what I need to do, 'cause I was trying to figure it out the other day, and the technology would not let me. I don't know why I am singing right now. I would like people to stay, and this is not the way to go about it. Come on, machine, wake up. I scroll that up, and I think I can Yes, I can. There we go. All right, now I can close out this tab. Linda, I think I have made good on my word. I believe you should now be blue. Dave says, if you really want to get rid of them, I could sing. No, no, I would really like them to stay and continue to come in. We've got, holy crap on crackers, we got 15 people watching right now. That's a new record for me. I am tickled to death, even more so than I thought I was going to be today. I thought the high point of my day was going to be broadcasting at the hour that Jesus traditionally was held to have died. But 15 of y'all have come in to join me. I love it. Please make sure, while we're speaking of numbers, please make sure that there are 15 little blue thumbs upses down below as well. That would tickle me even more so. And Morton, hello Morton, welcome, welcome, welcome. Mr. Shadow Kitty says, I joined Twitter to keep in touch with all of you guys. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going around. All right, so this was the Dancing David chapter that I only vaguely remembered from my Sunday school and church and vacation Bible school days. I had not remembered that rude little punchline at the end. That was tacky with Mr. David. Let's see here. So he finally gets back the Ark of the Covenant, which has been down in Abinadab's. I can talk, I promise. Abinadab's house. Lo, these many moons. And they start bringing it home, playing instruments before it. All of those instruments, for no discernible reason, made out of fir wood. And they're going along and playing and going along, and all of a sudden the oxen trip. And Uzzah sticks out his hand and tries to stabilize the thing so that the ark of the Lord doesn't fall down and get busted, and God kills him. Just like that. Just like that. Now, the justification for this that I heard back in my Sunday school and church and vacation Bible and church choir days and so forth and so on, the justification was that Uzzah was struck down because his reaching out to take hold of the ark was a demonstration of his lack of faith in the Lord. That he should have just taken it. That he should have just taken it as a given that the Lord would not let his fancy box fall to the ground, and so his reaching out to steady it was actually an act of blasphemy. This is how far apologists will contort themselves in order to justify the horrible, horrible bullshit their megalomaniacal, genocidal, homicidal, mean-spirited, ugly little God will do. Told you all this shit wasn't for children. Wonder Lady says, yeah, because blind devotion is terrific. Exactly. But it's what Yahweh wants. It's what the Lord demands of us. What does the Lord require of you but to do justly and love kindly and walk humbly with your God? We'll get to that eventually. Robert X says, God could have a steel arkwit. Steel ark with decent crew cabins and decent plumbing. That would have made so much more sense, wouldn't it? I've already done the ark. I'm not dragging us all back down that ridiculous rabbit hole again. Jesus didn't die. He was smote says Paul Ev 11. He was certainly smote by the Romans. There's certainly that. Not many people could smite like the Romans could smite. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, yes. The mean little coda at the end of this. And actually, there's a bit of silliness first. And you got to have a little bit of silly every once in a while. Otherwise, this book becomes just absolutely unbearably dark. And I say that as a confirmed long-term fan of the filmmaker Lars von Trier. Things can get too dark. All right, so after poor Uzzah is smitten down, David freaks the fuck out and says, how am I going to get this thing all the way back to my house? And he looks around and he says, hey, look, it's the house of Obed-Edom. And he says, hey, Mr. Obed-Edom, could you, can I leave this parked with you for a while? And Mr. Obed-Edom, being overburdened with choice, the way one is when someone like King David asks you a question, says, yeah, well, yes, of course. You can park that shit here as long as you need to, and I'll take real good care of it as long as I don't have to touch it, because I just saw what happened to poor Mr. Uzzah, whose best intentions led him to get smoked. And David says, all right, that'll work. So they park that shit there in the house of Obed-Edom, and David goes on his way. And the Lord takes a liking to Mr. Obed-Edom, blesses him and his household. For 3 months, he blesses Mr. Obed-Edom and his household. And after 3 months, word gets back to David, Mr. Obed-Edom has been blessed, him and his household. And David says, oh, good, I think we'll risk it. And goes down and gathers up the ark and takes it back to Jerusalem, singing and dancing and making merry the whole way. And as they approach the royal house in Jerusalem, Michal, Saul's daughter, David's first wife, before he started accumulating all these other wives, Michal, Saul's daughter, David's first wife, looks out the window and sees Mr. David all dancing and carrying on in front of the ark and says, that is some undignified horse shit. And once David has parked the ark and come inside and says, hey, Michal, I had a nice trip fetching back the Ark of the Covenant. How goes it with you, O my first wife among wives? She turns to him and says, that was some undignified horse shit. And I have lost all respect for you because you had the temerity to dance. So there. David takes a beat and says, well, I wasn't dancing for you, you dumb person. I was dancing for the Lord. I tell you what, if me dancing for the Lord is too undignified for you, you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to do anything undignified for you ever again. I shall be undignified in the sight of the Lord, and I shall be undignified in the sight of your handmaidens. And lo and behold, if he doesn't never ever get undignified with Ms. Michal, daughter of Saul, again as long as she lives. Yep. Somebody needed some couples therapy. See what's going on in the chat. Mr. Shadow Kitty is practicing. Oh, what instrument? Out of the 3 squillion and 5 that you play, which instrument are you currently practicing? Thought he felt like went to heaven. Robert X is making dirty jokes about the crucifixion. Paul has been in the bath this whole time and forgot to tell us, and now is going to have a JD and Coke. I support and endorse this process and this decision. You need not be out of the bath in order to revel in the absurdity of the Bible with us here in the library. You can be as undignified as you like. Michal, daughter of Saul, is not here to judge us in our undignifiedness. Robert X says you made the list, but says that's a WWE reference, which explains why it means nothing to me. Amiga Nuts points out that this is yet more biblical overreacting, and he is not wrong. Mr. Shadow Kitty says, classical guitar. Very nice. Very, very nice. I am very, very, very uncoordinated and cannot play the guitar, despite how much I have tried over the years, but I can listen to some classical guitar all day long. Alrighty, first let me shake my camera around real good. Hope none of y'all are subject to vertigo. If you are, I deeply apologize, both for the action that led me to say that and for the tasteless joke that I just made about people with a serious medical condition, and I'm going to move right along. Alright. I am indeed going to move right along. We are going to move right along into chapter 7 of 2 Samuel. What the devil did I do with my glasses? There they are. Need to put these back on one of those granny chains around my neck. Morton says he might need a shower after. This Bible reading makes me feel dirty. And just think, this is one of the cleaner stretches of Bible we've had in a long time. The only thing we've had to complain about really so far is some counselingless marital strife and a small massacre of the blind and the lame, which scarcely even registers on the Richter scale of biblical morality. Registers on the Richter scale of biblical morality. I kind of like that. That was clever. Pat myself on the back real quick. Chapter 7. And it came to pass, when the king sat in his house, and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See, now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee. And it came to pass that night that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, Thus saith the Lord, Shalt thou build me an house for me to dwell in, whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle? In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build ye not me a house of cedar? Now therefore so shalt thou say unto my servant David, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies. Also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee an house. And when thy days are fulfilled, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. And I will set up thy seed after thee, which proceedeth out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. According to all these words, and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. Then went King David in and sat before the Lord, and he said, Who am I, O Lord God, and what is my house, that thou hast brought me hitherto? And this was yet a small thing in thy sight, O Lord God, but thou hast spoken also of thy servant's house for a great while to come. And is this the manner of man, O Lord God? And what can David say more unto thee? For thou, Lord God, knowest thy servant. For thy word's sake, and according to thine own heart, hast thou done all these great things, to make thy servant know them. Wherefore thou art great, O Lord God, for there is none like thee, neither is there any God beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one nation in the earth is like thy people, even like Israel, whom God went to redeem for a people to himself, and to make him a name, and to do for you great things and terrible, for thy land before thy people, which thou redeemest to thee from Egypt, from the nations and their gods? For thou hast confirmed to thyself thy people Israel to be a people unto thee forever, and thou, Lord, art become their God. And now, O Lord God, the word that thou hast spoken concerning thy servant, and concerning his house, establish it forever, and do as thou hast said. And let thy word be magnified forever, saying, The Lord of hosts is the God over Israel. And let the house of thy servant David be established before thee. For thou, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, hath revealed to thy servant, saying, I will build thee a house. Therefore hath thy servant found in his heart to pray this prayer unto thee. And now, O Lord God, thou art that God, and thy words be true, and thou hast promised this goodness unto thy servant. Therefore now let it please thee to bless the house of thy servant, that it may continue forever before thee. For thou, O Lord God, hast spoken it, and with thy blessing let the house of thy servant be blessed forever. And there we have the 7th chapter of the book of 2 Samuel. Let me check the chat and see what's going on here. Dootly dootly doot doot doot. Morality? Don't you mean moronity? Yeah, well, Nerdy Rodent wants a house made out of gopher wood. Nerdy Rodent does good tutorials. I have heard that. I have heard rumors to that effect. Okay, so in this chapter, we hear the voice of the Lord at length for the first time in quite some time. And the Lord has lost none of his repetitive style of vocalizing over the course of the last few books since we last heard him speak at length. It's just coffee. But, so, King David, having been given some respite from war for the first time in quite some considerable amount of time, looks round about him and says, I'm kind of digging my fancy-ass house. But I feel kind of bad, because God doesn't have no fancy-ass house. All he has is a fancy-ass tent that was designed specifically to his specifications, lo, these many moons ago. So he turns to the prophet Nathan and says, Hey, I kind of like my house. But the Lord doesn't have one. All he has is his custom-made fancy-ass tent. And Nathan says, oh, just go do it. You know you're going to do it anyway. Well, in the night, the word of the Lord comes to Mr. Nathan and says, ain't nobody told you to say that, you presumptuous little shit. That's not in the King James, but that's in the original. You presumptuous little shit. Get down there and tell David not to make me a damn house. I like my tent. I like it where I'm at. So the next day, Mr. Nathan comes down to David and he says, Mr. King David, sir, there has been a slight breakdown in communication. Here's what hath been revealed unto me. God don't want no house. God's happy with his bespoke tent, ephod and all. Everybody drink. David says, well, why not? And Nathan says, well, here's the thing. He doesn't want a house in a literal sense. He wants to bless you and your house in the metaphorical sense. And your son, he doesn't say which one, but he says that your son, who shall inherit the kingdom after you, he gonna build me a house. And it's going to be bigger and better than anything your puny mind could ever come up with. And I'll tell you one thing. I will make you a promise, says the Lord. Seldom a good sign. The Lord says, I shall make you a promise. You remember the guy you took over the kingdom from? You remember Tall Saul? David says, well, he was kind of unforgettable. He kept trying to stick me to the wall with his javelin. Yes, Lord, I remember Tall Saul, who I took over the kingdom from. God says, do you remember why you took over the kingdom from him? Remember that whole mess? How he did evil in my sight by not doing the massacre that I wanted him to massacre? How he kept leaving animals and the king alive despite the fact that I explicitly told him to go kill every motherfucker in the motherfucking town. David says, yeah, and I've tried very hard not to make the same mistake. I mean, I was told to go kill 100 Philistines and take their foreskins, and I exceeded that by a factor of 100. I've been trying very hard to be the massacre king that you, oh massacre God, seem to want. God says, well, you've done a damn good job of it. And because you've done such a damn good job at doing what I tell you, and because you've taken such good care of my little boxy house, I will not take the kingdom away from you, and I will not take the kingdom away from your son. You will reign in prosperity. David says, awesome. Thanks. That's the best news I've had all day. Except they take, 15 fucking minutes each to do this because it's scripture in the King James translation and they got to repeat themselves 45 fucking times in each damn paragraph. Nerdy Rodent says, oh, he hates it when people are left alive. And Amiga Nut says, just wait for it. You ain't wrong, Amiga Nuts. They all die in the end, half of them bloody. We've been going 49 minutes. Anybody want another chapter? I'm up for it if y'all are up for it. I think I've finally had enough coffee. I'm feeling good. One new lady says, sure they do, because repetition is how to drill it into bored minds. She ain't wrong. Another chapter? Shall we roll into chapter 8? I got to edit my banner here. Otherwise, I'm going to feel silly on the replay. Yes, I've been known to watch myself on the replay and make notes. Is that an 8 or a 3 that I just hyped? That is indeed an 8. Hallelujah. Wow, those are some glare on my glasses. 7 comments since I went over to the banner screen. Paul says, go for it. Robert and Nerdy are still talking about how little massacre they have. You impatient sons of bitches. There'll be another one soon enough. Wonder Lady says, do it. Amelia wants more death and destruction. Linda says, yes. Robert says, yes. We're going to keep going then, since the general consensus is that we should do more. Morton says if you remove the repetitions from the Bible, it would be a pamphlet. And he has an excellent point. Yeah, it would be like, it'd be like this. It'd be like one of those pamphlets that Godless Unicorn Cat is working their way through. Oh yeah, I gotta plug somebody real quick. Do y'all know Godless Unicorn Cat? She is a delight. She is very young, but she is a outspoken atheist online. She's trapped in a house right now with her very religious family. Godless Unicorn Cat on YouTube. Go give her a subscribe. She puts out fantastic content. She tore into this little pamphlet today that she'd gotten at church that was about how to be a biblically modest woman. It wasn't from Girl Defined, but it read like it was from Girl Defined, except that it was written by a man, and you could tell. And she tore into that thing like me into the meat at Thanksgiving dinner. It was a beautiful thing to see. Y'all gotta go watch that. Oh, and Dave's on top of it. Thank you, Dave. What would I do without you? I truly do not know. All right, you bloodthirsty lot. Let's see what happens in chapter 8. My organized self, get my eyes back on. I changed the banner. Good. Hallelujah. Chapter 8. And after this it came to pass that David smote the Philistines and subdued them. There you go. There's you a smiting and subduing. Right out the gate. And David took Metheg Ammah out of the hand of the Philistines. And he smote Moab, and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground. Even with 2 lines measured he to put to death, and with 1 full line to keep alive. And so the Moabites became David's servants, and brought gifts. And David smote also Hadadezer, the son of Rehob, king of Zobah, as he went to recover his border at the river Euphrates. And David took from him 1,000 chariots, and 700 horsemen, and 20,000 footmen. And David huffed all the chariot horses. Howd? The word is Houghed, is what David did to the chariot horses. But reserved of them for 100 chariots. And when the Syrians of Damascus came to succor Hadadezer, the king of Zobah, David slew of the Syrians 22,000 men. And David put garrisons in Syria of Damascus, and the Syrians became servants to David, and brought gifts. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. And David took the shields of gold that were on the servants of Hadadezer, and brought them to Jerusalem. And from Betah and from Berothai, cities of Hadadezer, King David took exceeding much brass. When Toi, king of Hamath, heard that David had smitten all the host of Hadadezer, then Toi sent Joram his son unto King David to salute him and to bless him, because he had fought against Hadadezer and smitten him. For Hadadezer had wars with Toi. And Joram brought with him vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and vessels of brass, which also did King David dedicate unto the Lord, with the silver and gold that he had dedicated of all nations which he subdued, of Syria, and of Moab, and of the children of Ammon, and of the Philistines, and of Amalek, and of the spoil of Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Zobah. And David gat him a name when he returned from smiting of the Syrians in the valley of Salt, being 18,000 men. And he put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom put he garrisons, and all they of Edom became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. And David reigned over all Israel, and David executed judgment and justice unto all his people. And Joab the son of Zeruiah was over the host, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was recorder. And Zadok the son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech the son of Abiathar were the priests, and Seraiah was the scribe. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief rulers. And there we have the 8th chapter of the 2nd book of Samuel. Refresh my memory. Was there anybody in the chat who was wondering if we were going to get a nice Old Testament massacre again? Seems like somebody was complaining it wasn't bloody enough, this book. Well, ask and ye shall receive. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let us see here. Smoted party time. Joseph Blue asks, am I live? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Highly caffeinated and live. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Oh, Wonder Lady's gone to a dictionary. Middle English. Ooh, I don't read IPA. Hauga. All of these come from the Old English, which means to hamstring. So he hamstrung all of the captured horses, except for the ones in the number he specifically needed to draw his captured chariots. Let us see. Not the horsies. Yes, the horsies. Hamstrung horsies. Massacre, says Morton. Sounds fun. Well, you know. If you stick around with this fucking book, you always have a massacre sooner or later. So let's see. We smote the Philistines, and we smote the Moabites, and we smote Hadadezer. We smote the Syrians and took over Damascus. We smote Betah and Berothai and Hadadezer and took all their brass. And then Mr. Toi, the enemy of Hadadezer, comes out of the woodwork and says, "Hey, David! King David! Thank you so much for your smiting of Hadadezer, because Hadadezer and I have had beef. Beef, I tell you, we have had. Long and long between us have we had beef. So thank you for smiting Hadadezer and taking away all his horses and hamstringing half of them. Thank you very much. Here's some fancy shit in return. Here's some fancy tribute." And David took all the silver and gold that he had taken from the peoples he did smite, Notifications? Stop it! Never want to give me notifications except when I'm live. YouTube. And more smiting. Smiting the Syrians. And smiting the Edomites. And reigning over all the people. And then a brief little bit of recording as to who had what government job. Because heaven only knows this book would not be complete without some tedious and nigh unpronounceable string of names to tell you who did what outdated stuff. That was a busy little chapter for not much to happen. Joseph Blue says the Pope could not wash prisoners' feet last night. Oh yes, the ceremonial foot washing to commemorate Jesus washing his disciples' feet at Passover. But we're social distancing. Even the holiest among us. Even the rich old fart in the silly funny hat with the bulletproof car is social distancing more than normal. Don't want to try to grab his hand today. You'd probably get stabbed instead of just slapped. Nerdy says, what fun is a massacre if you can't have a little bit of mutilation on the side? Wonder Lady says, probably so they could eat the horses later. Mr. Shadow Kitty points out that these would be regarded as war crimes in the present day. Yeah, welcome to the Old Testament, my friend. The big book of barbaric war crimes and outdated regulations. That's a good... The Holy Bible. I've got a pen here somewhere, I know, because I found it while I was looking for something else this morning. There we go. The Holy Bible, Scritch, the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations. I like it better already. See if I can get it to focus. You get the idea. Wonder Lady wants a Pope mobile. Yeah, don't we all? Make driving in some of the places I've had to drive a lot easier, wouldn't it? Boop, boop. Like Mr. Toad. Boop, boop. Get out of the way! Just drive around like God was on your side. Devil take the hindmost. All right. Well, I've been going and going and going. How are y'all doing? How's everybody coping with lockdown and quarantine and shelter in place and all this crap that we're dealing with while we're trying to avoid catching the cooties? Why am I being so careful about it? They're not going to demonetize this video. Coronavirus. How's everybody dealing with the extreme safety measures we're having to take, the social distancing we're having to do as a result of the rampage of COVID-19? Everybody doing all right? Got most of my friends here. I just want to make sure everybody's hanging in there okay. Pause for the lag and pause for the chat. I know y'all probably right on top of it, but I'm in StreamYard, which has a lag that makes my normal lag look like a quick spring dance. Good. Yeah, here we go. Good. People, the consensus seems to be people doing. Nerdy loves lockdown. You just like being inside and having an excuse. Linda says she's doing pretty good. Paul's doing good. Paul's on his second JD and Coke. Joseph's fine. Wonder Lady says people keep touching me. Oh no! Of all the people to keep getting touched during this pandemic, it's got to be poor Faye. No, I'm so sorry. Dave says no comment. I respect your choice, my friend. Mr. Shadow Kitty has lots more time to... We're putting that one up on the screen. Lots more time to practice, but running out of pot. I'm so glad for the first, and I'm so sorry for the second. I myself do not partake, but I know many people who do, and it's unpleasant to be running out. I know there are places where the cannabis proprietors are considered essential businesses, but I know that's not everywhere. Morton says, same old, same old. Mega Nuts is putting on wet. Yeah, you and me both, brother. You and me both. Now, at least, Nerdy Rodent says, now, at least when anyone asks in a year what I'm doing, I can just say, remember the social distancing regulations. People keep touching Faye. I'm so sad. See, I'm touching my face. All I had to do was start talking about it. It's all right. My hands are very, very clean, and I'm inside, and I'm not touching nobody. Nobody. Well, I'm glad the consensus is that everybody's safe except for poor Faye. Just tell him to knock it off. Tell him old man Junk Shop said quit it. Amiga, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you, Amiga Nuts. Thank you. That's fantastic. Tells Wonder Lady to tell him you are the Ark, and to remember the last guy who touched it was smitten of God, and he died. Awesome. I love our community. I know I've taken to saying this almost every stream now, but I truly do. I love our little community here so, so very much. Gosh, it's fantastic. Brainbug! Hey, Brainbug, welcome, my friend. Popping in out of nowhere. Hope everything is well with you and with the hive. The consensus around here is that most people are kind of dealing mostly okay with the corona and the social distancing and shit. Except people keep touching Faye. I want to smack them. Get away! Get away! Apparently today is the day that Junk Shop drinks way too much coffee, and so does silly, silly voices. You never know what you're going to get here in the library, do you? Some days you get depressed Junk Shop slogging his way through one chapter and hardly able to do that. And then some days old man Junk Shop says, oh, look, it's the top of the hour. I think I can probably go another hour before my computer totally craps out on me. Wonder Lady's... Okay, in that case, no smacking. More power to you. I have some patience. I don't have that much. I know that from a fact, from my days back when I was taking my social work degree. There are things I have patience for and things I do not, and I celebrate and admire the people who have patience for that. Nerdy Rodent wants to know if any of the characters in the Bible have Australian accents. Not when I'm reading it, they don't. There are some accents I can do a nice cartoony version of, not Australian. I ain't even going to try. Besides, I'm still trying to break into the Aussie circle a little bit, and if I caught on camera doing a crazy, stupid Aussie accent, then I will never gain the respect of Chris the Atheist Pastor and all them crazy, wacky people down there. Hive as well. I trust the library as well. And thank you, Brainbug. Yes, we are well. We are socially distant. We are well washed. And we are well supplied. Which makes it just the most claustrophobic vacation in the history of the world. Like, it's nice. Julie's working from home. It's tedious. Ain't nothing open, so ain't nowhere to go. Y'all know how it is. All right. I think I'm going to see what happens in Chapter 9. Which means I got to adjust my banner. Hide, yes. Edit, yes. Delete. 9. Yes. Because that's what exactly you wanted right there in that moment, was me narrating out loud which buttons I was pushing, because I'm that riveting. I appreciate your indulgence, one and all. Oh, that's right! Wonder Lady, thank you! Australia doesn't exist, so I don't have to worry about an Australian accent. In fact, I know Australia doesn't exist because I never get Australian thumbs ups on my videos. So, it's just a hoax. It's a conspiracy. Armored penguins. Nerdy Rodent's gonna bet on more smiting. I'm not taking that bet because I think it's entirely likely that we're going to have more smiting now that King David's officially getting his warlord on. Yep, Amiga Nuts is a shill for Nervardia. This is true. Because Australians really do exist. I don't know. I think she's part of that cabal. You know, the ones who are out to convince us Australia really does exist, but I don't buy it. Nope, not for a minute. I'm skeptical of the existence of Australia. I couldn't even get through it with a straight face. God damn it. Okay, Chapter 9. Yes, I changed the banner. Good for me. I am on point today with my organized self. Thank y'all for sticking around with me. Chapter 9. And David said, Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may shew him kindness for Jonathan's sake? And there was of the house of Saul a servant, whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him, Ziba, and he said, Thy servant is he. And the king said, Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may shew the kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet. And the king said unto him, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodebar. Then King David sent, and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, from Lodebar. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, Mephibosheth? And he answered, Behold thy servant. And David said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely shew thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. And he bowed himself and said, What is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am? Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to all his house. Thou, therefore, and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread alway at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then said Ziba unto the king, According to all that my lord the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. And Mephibosheth had a young son, whose name was Micah, and all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet. That's all there is to chapter 9. The finding and raising to the king's table of Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, who is remarkable only for who his father was and for the fact that his nursemaid dropped him and broke his feet when he was little. Poor Mephibosheth. Hard to spell name, unremarkable, and lame in his feet. Poor little guy. Oh, Robert X has to go. So sorry to hear that. Take care. Lady O'Brien, who I do not know and have not seen before. Welcome. Says, Jesus loves you. I appreciate the sentiment. Did you read the whole title? I'm an atheist reading the Bible. I appreciate the well wishes. Just be aware of what you just wandered into. If you just clicked on it because it said Bible study, I'm one of those godless heathens your mother warned you about. Just so you know. Wonder Lady says, actually, Nirvardia is an 81-year-old yoga instructor. Yes, I knew it. I knew it. Maybe she's joking. Maybe she is. I decided to err on the side of believing her to be honest. So, I mean, not honest. That was a weird choice of words. I want to say if you meant Jesus loves you in like an honest way from the heart of you being a follower, just wanted you to know that you were amongst heathens and apostates. And if you're just being silly, that was some awesome trolling on your way in. And you are most welcome, because your troll game is strong. Amiga Nuts is talking Hitchhiker's Guide. When is Towel Day? What's that one day we're all supposed to have a towel? I don't even remember when that is anymore. Okay, yeah, thanks, Shadow Kitty. That was how it was intended. All right. So that's just kind of that's one of these chapters that only exists. Oh, goodness sake, y'all pardon me. It is oak tree blooming season around here. And my face is unhappy about it because I am allergic to oak tree blooming. Everything is covered in that stuff, and I don't like it. Yeah, so this is just one of those chapters that only exists as backstory. This is the introduction of Mephibosheth and the explanation for why he lives in Jerusalem and eats continually at the king's table. Katie again. No matter what. No, you're not joking, and yes, you know that I'm an atheist. Okay, well, as long as you know what you're in for. I don't know how long you've been watching, but I'm kind of a strong language atheist, just so you know. What? Oh, Paul's on his third JD coming up. Paul's doing this Bible right. Katie says, it's cool that I'm reading the Bible. What passages have you read so far? Everything so far. We just wrapped the 9th chapter of 2 Samuel. And a little over a year ago, we started with Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 1. We have worked our way all the way through every single word of the King James Version, the authorized version of 1611, which a little while ago I have renamed the Big Book of War Crimes and Outdated Regulations. Nerdy's here for the smiting. Yes! Leave no child alive! Smite 'em all! The biblical doctrine of peace through superior firepower. All right. Well, we're kind of on a roll, aren't we? I kind of want to know what happens that we had to introduce Mephibosheth again, because I assumed we had seen the last of him. I think we're going to go on to chapter 10 and just assume that when people get bored, they'll drop out. Because I'm having fun. And I hope y'all are too. Show yes checkbox. This book needs more lightsabers. Yeah, I won't say no to that. Wonder Lady says the Bible is not safe for kids. No, it definitely is not. It is full of just about every kind of atrocity you can imagine, and some more besides, just for good measure. Stuff that wouldn't even have fucking occurred to you. I warned you. All right, chapter 10. And it came to pass after this, that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then said David, I will show kindness unto Hanun, son of Nahash, as his father shewed kindness unto me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, Thinkest thou that David doth honour thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city, and to spy it out, and to overthrow it? Wherefore Hanun took David's servants, and sheaved off one half of their beards, and cut off their garments in the middle, even unto their buttocks, and sent them away. When they told it to David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Beth Rahab, and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen, and of King Maacah 1,000 men, and of Ishtab 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. And the children of Ammon came out, and put the battle in array at the entering in of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah, and of Rahab, and of Ishtab, and Maacah were by themselves in the field. When Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind, he chose all of the choice men of Israel, and put them in array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. And he said, If the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for thee, then I will come and help thee. Be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people, for the cities of our God, and the Lord do that which seemeth him good. And Joab drew nigh, and the people that were with him, unto the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled they also before Abishai, and entered into the city. So Joab returned from the children of Ammon, and came to Jerusalem. And when the Syrians saw that they were smitten before Israel, they gathered themselves together. And Hadarezer sent, and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river, and they came to Helam. And Shobach, the captain of the host of Hadarezer, went before them. And when it was told David, he gathered all Israel together, and passed over Jordan, and came to Helam. And the Syrians set themselves in array against David, and fought with him. And the Syrians fled before Israel, and David slew the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians, and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shobach, the captain of their host, who died there. And when all the kings that were servants to Hadarezer saw that they were smitten before Israel, they made peace with Israel and served them. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon anymore. And there we have chapter 10 of the book of 2 Samuel, which, as far as I'm concerned, should immediately be adapted into a short film scored with yakety sax. Let's see what's going on over here. Nothing beats a good blaster at your side. Yep, that's true. More buttocks! We got a Star Wars fan in the house. Katie likes Star Wars. Amiga Nuts immediately asks the major question, how do you feel about the Wars Trek divide? Katie does not like Trek. Katie and I cannot be friends. It's too bad. Katie points out that she doesn't like how the KJV changes what hell in the New Testament is like. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Katie, I'm going to give you shit, especially because of the not liking Star Trek thing. But you're definitely welcome. As long as you are here to engage honestly and without abuse, you are definitely welcome here. And I only say that because we had somebody come in a few months ago who was only here to start shit and stir up trouble, and I don't stand for shit stirring and trouble making. There's enough of that out in the world. Our little community here doesn't need it. The book of Samuel L. Jackson. Does it have snakes on a plane? 'Cause I'm scared because I swore I saw a snake on a plane. All right. I kind of like this chapter. Because this is the best comedy we've had in a while. So the king of the Ammonites died. And the king of the Ammonites had shown some kindness to David back, if memory serves, back even before the days when David was king. Was it among the Ammonites? David hid out the first time he ran away from Saul because Saul was trying to kill him. Wasn't that where he pitched camp for all those years? Didn't he hide out among the Ammonites? Or was that among the Philistines? No, that was among the Philistines, because then the Philistines got suspicious when the Philistines went to war with Israel, and they were worried that David might turn and fight against them instead of against Israel. I'm drawing a blank. So, he helped, anyway, the king of the Ammonites had helped David at some point back earlier in the story, probably back in 1 Samuel. And so David sends a contingent with fruit baskets and shit to console Hanun, the son of Nahash, king of the Ammonites, and says, I'm here. I heard your pappy died, and he was nice to me once upon a time, so I'm here to bring you fruit baskets and lilies and shit. But the viziers of the court never trust a vizier. The viziers of the court whispered and murmured in the ear of the new king and said, "You can't trust him. He's here to spy out your kingdom and massacre your people and steal all your shit." Which, to be fair, is something that David is at this point known for, massacres and stealing of other people's shit. And so, while Hanun decides not to kill the messengers, he steals half of their clothing so that their ass cheeks show, and forcibly shaves off half their beards, and sends them on their way. then Mr. David gets word that his servants have been disgraced by the person he wanted to send fruit baskets to. So, with the true compassion of a king appointed by Yahweh, he tells them they have to stay put in Jericho on the other side of the river from his place until their beards grow back, because he's not having any half-bearded motherfuckers come near him. And then he gathers the armies together and goes out against Mr. Hanun the Beard Shaver. When Mr. Hanun the Beard Shaver hears there's an army coming his way, he hires the Syrians. He takes on a mercenary force and sets them up outside the city and puts his people at the gate of the city. Sorry, I'm waggling around all over the place, y'all. This cord is just driving me up the motherfucking wall. Ah, there we go. Peace, be still. Say hi to my brother Robert. Hi. Welcome to Improv Bible Study, Paul's brother Robert. Any friend of Paul's is a friend of mine. All are welcome. All right, let me see. I saw the chat just blurring past over here. Let's see what's going on. Dooley dooley doo 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 doo. No, Dave, not unless she gets obnoxious. Star Trek is awesome too. Yes, Morton, I knew there was something I liked about you. I will retire my famous rubber chicken. Brainbug comes down on the side of Starship Troopers. Damn it! Here I was, just coming to like you. We're talking about the definition and the mechanics of hell. Which, I'm sorry, Katie, is only interesting if you actually believe that hell is a place or a concept worth stressing over. I myself do not. I think it's a barbaric concept from the Bronze Age that can safely be dismissed out of hand along with all of the rest of the supernatural hogwash, both in this book and without it. Sorry, dear. You did come into the Atheist Bible Study. Starship Troopers is freaking funny. There's more. Yes, it is. It's hilarious. Satire is amazing, and I wish there was more of it out there. Fruit basket of smiting. No heaven or hell, no gods or demons. Agreed. Faye bringing the absence of doctrine. Brainbug, yes, so the Bible has a Grima Wormtongue character. Nice reference there, my friend. Yes, the vizier who whispers in the ears of power. Ah, and the introduction of Robert. Yes, said hello to Robert. Welcome. Whoop. Ah! Did you take the Darth Dawkins quiz is here? Hello. I've seen you in other chats. I've never seen you here before. Like and subscribe. Everybody like and subscribe. Morton says, don't forget the incest. Yes, the entire fucking book is predicated on incest because of that massive genetic bottleneck that starts off the whole thing. Well, maybe not on that, because there were people outside the garden, we find out a couple of chapters later, but certainly the flood creates a massive genetic bottleneck of, let's see, Noah and his wife, never named, and his 3 sons, and their wives, which we assume to be 3, though it's not explicitly said, and also who don't have names because they're women in the Bible, and nobody gives a flying fuck unless they do something truly spectacular or truly god-awful. Let's see. Robert. Ah, welcome, Robert. Thank you for the like and for the subscribe. Okay, it is your first time. Did you take the Darth Dawkins quiz? It is your first time here. Okay, well, welcome. I know I've seen you in other chats. I hadn't really. I'm trying to think where. Doesn't matter. But I know I've seen you in other chats. Do not watch the Starship Troopers sequels. Agreed. Mr. Shadow Kitty, I will give Katie credit for having the curiosity to investigate a room like this. Yes, definitely. And for staying so nice through this whole mess, because we're throwing 6 shades of shit at her, and she's still maintaining us some sort of equilibrium, which is more than I would have been able to do back in my theistic days. This is our mad room, but it's fun. Junk Shop was on the Daily Atheist Show. Yes, I was. Twice, actually, but functionally only once, because the first time I was on, I kept getting kicked out of the room by my high-tech, spare-no-expense computer setup, because my computer was overheating and crashing. Okay, and that catches us up. So, let us see here. Oh, yes, I know where we were. We were at the Yakety Sax part. Having hired the Syrian mercenaries, the king of the Ammonites puts them out here in the... Might help if you could see my gestures. Out here in the field. And then over here at the gates of the city, he puts his people, trapping the Israelite army neatly in the middle. What he doesn't think of is that the Israelite army can strategize too. The Israelite army splits neatly in half and goes charging off at both foeful armies, both foes, the armies of their foes, simultaneously and at the same time. And when the mercenaries see that they're being charged by a handful of warlike, not a handful, but a whole shit ton of warlike Israelites, like most mercenaries, they decide they value their lives more than their paychecks, and they run like fuck the other which direction? Sorry, everything's backwards. This direction. And the same thing happens over here. The people of the Ammonites see more Israelites charging their way, and they lock themselves up in the city. Not enough comedy in this book, but when it comes hard and fast. So then, those poor Assyrian mercenaries get all beat up and killed, including their king. And Mr. Hadarazer's subservient kings see that everybody involved in this big fancy skirmish got their asses handed to them, and they made peace with David. And then I absolutely loved the last line of this chapter. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon anymore. After that ass-whooping, they didn't want any more, because David done got his warlord on and is kicking butt and taking names. Let's see. Katie lost some points on Star Trek, and we're not gonna let her forget it. Our SDA's YEC. Our 7-day Adventists, young Earth creationists. I do not know. Maybe Katie will tell us. I'll be honest, I did not know that Did You Take the Darth Dawkins quiz had a channel. I've only seen him in chats. I need to go check out that channel then. Ah, Katie wants my deconversion story. I'll put it in a nutshell. Um, because most people here, I think, likely have already heard me ramble about it at quite some length. What originally deconverted me was thinking too much about the concept of hell, because if there is because the concept of infinite punishment for finite crime is both immoral and illogical. And no sane and functioning God would ever institute such a system, and any God that would institute such a system is unworthy of worship due to being illogical and bad at math. And when I realized that there was no logical way that hell could ever exist, the whole house of cards, which had been built upon a foundation of fear of hell and lust for heaven, came crashing down. And later that afternoon, I was an atheist, and that was 20 years ago. So that's me in a nutshell. Smite, smote, smitten. Wait, that does not belong. Smitten. Yes. Yes, I am smitten with my wife, but not smitten by her. Hey, Chris, welcome aboard. We are having fun today. Great show this morning. Fantastic. Godless Granny's always awesome, but I don't think I'd ever seen her off the cuff live before. It was great. I still got to check out the history of religion thing that you and Mr. Athope put together. I have not seen it yet. All right. We got all kind of folks up in here. We've got a theist, and we've got Paul's brother. I'm sorry, Paul's brother. Was it Robert? I hope it was Robert, because that's what I'm thinking. Morton wants a deconversion story too, but he never believed those fairy tales from the start. I don't know whether I envy people who never believed or not, because here's the thing. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if I'd never believed. I was brought up to my eyeballs in this crap. By a father who was a minister and a biblical scholar, and so I was born of this, which allows me to do what I can do. And this is one of the few things that I will unabashedly say I am good at. I have found this to do, and I am good at what I do. And had I not been raised the way I was, I would not be. So I'm glad that I'm out. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that I deconverted. I just have trouble imagining what I would be like if I had never been in, if that makes any sense. Hi, Robert. Yes. No, sorry, Robert. I was just catching Chris up on some folks who were in here. We've got a theist. We've got and we've got Robert and Paul and Zoidberg. All manner of folks in here. Critical Cripple asks, is my father still a minister? Yes. Yes, he is still on active duty, and that's one of a couple of reasons why I maintain anonymity on the net. Because church people can be vindictive and mean. At least that's my personal experience. And so I want to maintain a bit of a firewall between this and my poor father, who deserves absolutely none of the blowback that he would get were anyone to find out that his son is doing this. Joseph Blue says, "Oh, is that who you are? Okay, fantastic." Yep. See, I did not know. I did not know. Um, so welcome again. You were welcome to begin with, but you are welcome now too. Or were you sent here by Gates? Anyway, all are welcome. Friend of, oh gosh. Oh, Faye, I'm so sorry. Okay, now, oh dear, now we're discussing archaeological evidence for the Exodus. There's not any. Sorry, Katie, there's just not. That's all been entirely debunked, and debunked a significant amount of time ago, if memory serves. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm going to do another chapter. I know we're coming up on the top of 2 hours, but I'm having a good time. And we seem to be all in the good time boat together. So unless there is particularly strenuous objection, I'm going to update my banner for future reference. And then we're going to do chapter 11. Come on, machine, go into the other tab. Yeah, Tony sent this to Snopes. Yeah, if you got any questions, you can usually go to Snopes, and Snopes will tell you something's been debunked or not. Amiga Nuts wants more smiting. Yes. Let's see if there's more smiting. And it came, oh, sweet Jesus, this, oh boy. I know this story. And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers, and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived, and sent and told David, and said, I am with child. And David sent to Joab, saying, Send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, Go down to thy house, and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, Camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go unto thine house? And Uriah said unto David, The ark, and Israel, and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab, and the servants of my lord, are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house, to eat, and to drink, and to lie with my wife? As thou livest, and as my soul liveth, I will not do this thing. And David said to Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him. and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord, but went not down to his house. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab, and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter, saying, Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, that he assigned Uriah unto a place where he knew that valiant men were. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, When thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and he say unto thee, Wherefore approached ye so nigh unto the city when ye did fight? Knew ye not that they would shoot from the wall? Who smote Abimelech, the son of Jerubasheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from the wall, that he died in Thebez? Why went ye nigh the wall? Then say thou, Thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. So the messenger went, and came and shewed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, Surely the men prevailed against us, and came out unto us into the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot off from the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then David said unto the messenger, Thus shalt thou say unto Joab, Let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the morning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife, and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. And there we have the 11th chapter of 2 Samuel. Let me scan back through the chat here and see what I have missed. All right, more smiting. The earth, the age of the earth. Tony says, this is the best story in the Bible. It's certainly up there, isn't it? Bible, to smite, murder, death, kill. Let's see. Oh my, we're talking about the origins of the earth. Jesus is in the Quran. Yes, Jesus is in the Quran. Robert's not been working the past couple of days. A lot of folks in that boat, my friend. A lot of folks in that boat. Brainbug says, yes, David was sort of a POS, huh? He was. He was indeed. Come to find out. Tony points out a difference in translation. There is one where David tells Joab, let not Uriah's hoary head go down to the grave in peace. All right, so Brainbug hit the nail on the head with this one. David shows his true colors and turns out to be kind of a piece of shit. And we're given a little narrative indication of that right from the very first verse before anything fucking happens. Because what happens in the first verse? When the year had expired, meaning it's springtime now, in the spring of the year, the time of the year when kings go out to war, David sent his generals out to war, but David remained in Jerusalem. And while David, having abdicated his warrior king duties, is chillaxing at the palace, it is Faye the Most Gracious in the house. Welcome, Faye. Hello, hello. We're having way too much fun today. All right. He takes a walk on the roof of his house. And he said, y'all pardon me, I am stuck in my couch. Ugh. That's all right. You can laugh. It's funny. Ah, there we go. That's better. Faye says, what are you saying? Saying you're always welcome is what I'm saying. Love having you here. All right, so Mr. David takes a walk on the roof of his house in the cool of the evening and spies on some poor woman across the way who is purifying herself from her uncleanness. He goes down and asks his servant, says, who's that fine-looking lady across the way? And his servants say, oh, her? That's Bathsheba. You know, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. A manly, mighty man in your army who is currently out fighting in the field on your behalf since you decided to stay your kingly ass at home during this go-into-war season. And David says, cool. I think she's hot. Fetch her. So they do. Because women are property in this holy book, of which not one stroke nor jot nor tittle shall pass away till heaven and earth pass away. So he unceremoniously borrows the wife of one of his warlords and rapes her and has done with her and sends her home. And so time passes and he gets a note from the wife of Uriah that says, you knocked me up. David says, oops, hadn't intended on that happening while I was doing my raping. Hadn't intended there to be evidence. So he summons Uriah back from the war and says, how's the war going? And Uriah says, well, your kingly ass would know if you were out there on the front lines with us like your kingly ass is supposed to be in the spring of the year. I mean, it's going fine. And David says, you know what? You've earned yourself a break doing all that war fighting on my behalf. Why don't you go down to your house and wash your feet and take a nap and spend some time with your wife, who you haven't seen since the start of the spring? And Uriah the Hittite departs from David's kingly presence, but stretches out on the doorsill and takes his nap there. And David gets up in the morning and says, what the fuck are you doing there? I told you to go down to your house and fuck your wife. I mean, and take a rest. And Uriah carefully, and not in any sort of loaded language, says, O king, All the manly fighting men of both Israel and Judah are at war. They're camped in tents. They're sleeping on the hard stone ground of the burning-ass desert. TM. How can I justify going down to my house and taking a load off and eating fine food and drinking fine drink and fucking my wife when every other authority figure and fighting man in Israel and Judah is down there at the front lines of the war, including the Ark of the Covenant? They're all down at the front lines, and here I am, and you want me to go home and get laid? No, thank you. David says, well, God damn it, I sure enough thought that would work. Tell you what, let's have a party. And he throws a party. And he gets Uriah drunk. Drunkety drunk. And says, here, Uriah, you're all drunk. Why don't you go home? Fuck your wife. I don't know why it's so urgent to me that you get laid right this weekend, but apparently it is, and I'm the king, and the king's word goes, go home and fuck your wife. Quick now. Almost as if there was a timetable on it. And Uriah the Hittite says, no, I'm good. And he stretches out at the door of the king's house again. And David says this could go on for years. So he writes a letter. He writes a letter to the general at the front line. And he says, I want you to put Uriah the Hittite in the very thick of the fighting, wherever it's most busy. And then when the fighting gets real rough, I want you to have everybody else step back. And he seals the letter with the seal of the King of Israel and Judah, the anointed of Yahweh, the Most High God. And he takes the letter and gives it to Uriah the Hittite and says, take this missive to the general on the front lines, and don't worry, there's nothing hinky about it, just some kingly instructions. And Uriah takes him at his word and goes. Well, the letter arrives on the front line, and the general opens it up and reads what it says and thinks to himself, how in the fuck am I supposed to do this? I mean, I'll do it, but how the fuck am I supposed to do this? We're besieging a city. It's not as if we're just out on the open plain. We're besieging a goddamn city. We're going to get our asses shot up by the archers on the wall. Oh, well, the king said. The king in Jerusalem, who couldn't be bothered to join us, or he'd know that we were besieging a city. So he moves the whole army up to besieging distance, up to shooting distance, because he needs Uriah the Hittite to get shot, which puts all the rest of his men in danger, and sure enough, they start dropping like flies, and then Uriah gets shot and dies of an arrow. And so they pull back. The general gathers unto himself a messenger and says, here, go tell David, the kingly king, back in his comfortable house in Jerusalem, that we did what he said, and that we lost some good men, and that we got his proxy murder of Uriah the Hittite done. And if the king asks you some damn fool question that would only be asked by someone who had kept his kingly ass at home instead of down here at the front war fighting with the rest of the men. Otherwise, he'd know we were besieging a city and this was a dumb fucking strategy. If he asks you a dumbass question like that, especially if he brings up the story of the guy who didn't know how to besiege a city and got hit by a piece of rock that some woman dropped on his head, injuring him so badly that he had to commit suicide rather than let it be known that he had been beaten by a woman. If he brings up that damn fool story, console him with the knowledge that the mission worked, and among all the other dead men of Israel and Judah, one of them is Uriah the Hittite, that it was so fucking important for him to have died. And the servant goes to David and says, well, they did what you said, and a lot of good men died, and so did Uriah the Hittite. David says, awesome, that was the plan, and send him back to the war. Then he gathers some of his servants together and says, well, I guess Bathsheba's not the wife of Uriah the Hittite anymore, now is she? Fucking fetch her. Get that lost property baggage from over across the street who now has no owner. And they do. And he rapes her again. Yeah. And gets her with child. And that's the story of King David, anointed of God, and of Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. King David, ancestor of Jesus, Son of God. I've been seeing the chat go by. Let me see if anything. It had been going by. All right. I love that there's so many people here and so much talking going on. All right, here we go. Let's see. Expansion, explosion. Oh, we're talking the Big Bang.
Oh, everything.
Expansion, inflation. Yes, yeah, we've gotten a little bit of everything going on in the chat. I love it. Faye the Most Gracious says, who's that fine-looking lady across the way? Servant says, me, bitch! Oh, we're talking beliefs and origins.
Okay.
Raging Atheists Discord, yes. Yes, the and Molly and Faye talking. The wording in this fucking book is beyond problematic. Agreed.
Can I me-bomb your stream for 2 seconds?
Of course.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm just scrolling through the chat. Let's see.
Okay, my hair's a mess because it's drying. And hi, Faye. I am going to do that video for you. I just realized most of my makeup is Halloween makeup, but I'm going to figure something out. So, thank you so much, because it was awesome. Anyway, that was it. Had a thing for Faye. Love you guys. Bye.
Sorry, I'm trying to get caught up in the chat. Y'all bear with me. Y'all bear with me just one moment. Empathy leads to morals. Agreed. And as our intellect evolves, we codify those morals. Yes. Oh, we're deep in the weeds with the morality argument, aren't we? It's all right. If ever there was a chapter to discuss morality during, it was the story of David and Bathsheba. Are you guys familiar with presuppositional apologetics? Yes, and they're arrogant nonsense. There's nothing more condescending than telling someone their worldview is incoherent without your special decoder ring.
Hey, boss, I'm sorry. A friend called me from, and like, she lives in Las Vegas, and we hadn't talked in forever. So yeah, I heard a call.
Yes,
I just reckoned it was my mom, and I'd call her back, and then I thought it was you.
Okay, Brainbug says hashtag justice for Uriah.
No,
Yes. Oh, there's Mr. Prophet Nathan's going to come out of the woodwork in the next chapter, and we're going to talk a little bit about the ramifications of the murder by proxy of Uriah the Hittite. Whoops, scrolled too fast and too far. Robert says, don't like this David guy. Poor old Uriah. Yeah, no kidding. This book spent a lot of time trying to get us to be on David's side, all of a sudden to pull this story out of its ass.
But no, the pharmacy was kind of funny. I did this
we don't know. Yes, exactly. The answer is, and is likely always to be, we don't know. And there's nothing wrong with saying, we don't know.
I would have sworn in a court of law that I only had like 4 or 5 left. And I never take, I'm 11 a day, and I almost never do. I use one. So I was like, I need to go ahead.
How did the first part that started life even come about, though? It's an important question to ask. It is an important question to ask, and the answer, as far as any scientist so far has been able to come up with it, is we don't know yet. The yet is important.
And I was like, oh, no, that's fine, no big deal. And I felt weird.
All right, so we are caught up. All right, we have been going almost 2¼ hours, so I'll either do the next chapter or not do the next chapter and wrap. The next chapter is the continuation of the saga of David, Bathsheba, and Uriah the Hittite. Do we want to do that, or do we want to leave on a slight cliffhanger and come back to it another day?
And there's like 15 pills in there. I'm not even close to running out. No, it's just the panic of like feeling like, you need to stock up on stuff.
Evolution has been completely demonstrated. This is true. If I could, just because this is a personal pet peeve of mine, the belief in evolution thing, I'm going to ask one of my mods to go drop a link to at least part of Aron-Ra's phylogeny series in the chat. Can one of y'all grab that for me and drop that in right quick? Paul says, fuck it, let's do it.
I really do understand that you hate this.
Well, I don't know, Katie. I'd argue with you about that. Genesis 1 talks about God moving over the water and then creating all the other stuff, piece by piece, inch by inch, and yard by yard, in the immortal words of Jacob Marley. All right. The consensus seems to be one more chapter. I am astonished, amazed, and impressed that my poor long-suffering computer has lasted this long. But I'll not question it. All right, so this is going to take us into chapter 12. I'm going to edit my banner.
Yeah, and that I find that weird too because aren't the people in the fields? I mean, it did kind of make sense when he said, I'm sorry, I don't remember the dude's name, but when the big Buddha said,
Actually, technically speaking, we are monkeys.
yeah, that
Fish did not evolve into birds. Fish evolved into later fish. Dinosaurs evolved into birds.
they were doing that, I was like, okay, well that makes sense. But there's hospitals, and then he taught, yes,
And all you got to do is look at the skeletons.
about how we have a government mandate to stay open, and I was like, yes, we do, and people need up-to-date information, so...
All right. End of chapter 11. The thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Chapter 12.
But you know what? It's not fair.
And the Lord sent Nathan unto David. And he came unto him, and said unto him, There were 2 men in one city, the one rich, and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveller unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd, to rest for the wayfaring man that was come unto him. But he took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. And he said unto Nathan, As the Lord liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, Thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house, and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thy eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this sun. For thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, The Lord also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house. And the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted, and went in, and lay all night on the earth. And the elders of his house arose, and went to him, to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. And therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed, and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread? And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her. And she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah, because of the Lord. And Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to David, and said, I have fought against Rabbah, and have taken the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and encamp against the city, and take it, lest I take the city, and it be called after my name. And David gathered all the people together, and went to Rabbah, and fought against it, and took it. And he took their king's crown from off his head, the weight whereof was a talent of gold, with the precious stones, and it was set on David's head. And he brought forth the spoil of the city in great abundance. And he brought forth the people that were therein, and put them under saws, and under harrows of iron, and under axes of iron, and made them pass through the brick kiln. And thus did he unto all the cities of the children of Ammon. So David and all the people returned unto Jerusalem. There we have chapter 12. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Thousands and 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 thousands of pieces of evidence for evolution. He is right. He is understating it somewhat, but he is right. Quoting Dickens. Yes, I love A Christmas Carol. Entirely too much. We evolved from earlier apes, yes. Mega Nuts, this is all new to me, says Robert Camish. Nerdy Rodent says, there are no gods, nothing was made. Agreed. This is the official stance of Junk Shop Library channel. Hotel California. Great. Thanks, Robert. I'm going to have that stuck in my head for the rest of the week. Awesome. Let's see. The most popular book of fiction. Yes, yes it is. A horrendously bad book, says Amiga Nuts. Yes, yes it is. If the last couple of chapters have taught us nothing else, is that this is a horrendously bad book. Well deserving of its new title. The Big Book of War Crimes and Outdated Regulations. Yes, and Paul points out, hey, Doc Fearsome, welcome. Somebody probably Paul. Yes, it was Paul. If anybody's interested, we can go with Discord and carry on the chat. There is a link to that in the description, because I remembered to put it in this time. Alright, and Dave dropping my links in the chat. Thank you so much, Dave, as always. Alright, yes, the Book of Death. Exactly, Chris. Thank you. Okay. So old Nathan Last seen being rebuked by God for endorsing the building of a temple when God hadn't explicitly said that was an okay thing. God comes to Mr. Nathan and says, I need you to go to Mr. David and tell him he done fucked up. Nathan goes, how in the hell am I supposed to do that? David has not proven remarkably receptive to constructive criticism over the years. I'll tell him a story. And he goes and says, hey, King David. David says, hey, Nathan the prophet. Nathan says, I have a situation. There are two people in your kingdom, and one of them is rich and one of them is poor. The rich one has all the crap he could possibly ever use, and the poor one has a pet lamb that he thinks of as one of his daughters, and it would never occur to him to slaughter because he sleeps with it on his bosom at night. It's a beloved family pet.
Okay.
And David says, okay, well, I was a shepherd once upon a time. I can see getting attached to one particular little baby ewe lamb. Nathan says, all right, well, here's the thing. The rich man had company coming. And company came, and the rich man went and stole the poor man's lamb and took it and killed it and ate it.
Oh, what a jerk.
David says, son of a bitch, now all of my old shepherding instincts are riled up. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna fucking kill this rich man, and his blood shall be upon him. And Nathan says, dude, it's fucking you. You're not good with metaphor, are you? David says, oh, god damn it. And Nathan says, here's the thing. God done promised you a long-ass time ago he would not raise up enemies against you. But he didn't say nothing about your house after you. Your son is going to die. The son of this rape union that you've made with the wife of Uriah the Hittite is going to die. And your kingdom will fall after you are gone. And David throws a fit. He goes and pouts, and he fasts, and he cries, and he whines, and he carries on, and he poor me's for 7 days. And at the end of the 7 days, he starts noticing that his servants aren't trying to convince him to eat anymore, and they're all sort of whispering in corners. And he says, God damn it, did he die? They say, yeah, he died. We're scared to tell you. He says, okay, I'm having lunch. Quite a likable character, this guy, isn't he? And so the servants kind of turn to him and say, you've been fasting for 7 days, and now the kid's dead, and you're throwing a lunch party? Little sandwiches and shit? David says, what do you want me to do? Kid's fucking dead. It's not like me fasting and praying for more is going to bring my son back to life. It's not as if I worship something with the power over life and death. It's not as if there's ever been a story about somebody having their life miraculously prolonged or being brought back to life by the power of, say, some supernatural golem whispering genie or anything. What do you want me to do? I'm eating lunch. Have a sandwich. Then he goes and he knocks up one of his wives again. And in the fullness of time, she bears a son they call Solomon. And God takes a shine to little Solomon. And that is the tale of David the just, favored of God, and of Bathsheba, who was the wife of Uriah the Hittite.
That would be a huge misnomer.
Aren't you glad you joined in today?
Yeah, but Solomon's kind of cool.
Solomon will be cool if he ever grows up and we get to learn about him and his 700 wives.
Oh, right, I forgot about the 7 of Jesus Christ.
And concubines on top of that.
Oh. There were some lonely women.
Either that or David had the worst case of priapism ever in the history of the species. All right. Yeah, Nerdy liked him. Not remarkably receptive to constructive criticism. I was kind of proud of that line. Thank you, Nerdy. Glad it took. Yeah, Katie, if you're still here, do feel free to come back. This is the most moving and shaking we've had around here in a little while. It's certainly nice to have an opposing viewpoint to rattle our cage a little bit.
Please.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, everybody make sure to subscribe to Chris's channel, The Daily Atheist. And if you can, check out his morning show, The Daily Atheist Morning Show. It's a fantastic bit of programming. He had one of my favorite YouTubers, Godless Granny, on this morning. If you don't know Godless Granny, you should. What do you mean he took a shine to Solomon? Oh, it said he was, let's see. What's the KJV for it? Doody-doody-doo-doo-doo. The Lord loved him. The Lord loved Solomon. Right, took a shine to is terminally southern for liked, loved, really, really
Is delighted by.
Delighted by, so forth and so on. Alrighty. Yes, Winnie the Pooh loves you. Thank you, Dave. I knew I could count on Dave for something there. All right. Well, we've been going and going. Whew. I'm about talked out, but Paul did float the idea earlier of us reconvening in the Discord. Anybody up for that? We could conference call over there if anybody wanted to put in their 2 cents about the long saga of that we've gone through today. David. Sorry, I know I'm dealing with the lag. Yeah, Paul was on the DAM show a few weeks back. We had a good time. That's how I met Paul. And Robert, yes, Robert too did. It was very good. All right, well, we're going to wrap up here. It would be remiss of me to close out the show without doing 2 things. One is shill myself. I have all the various links down there for the Discord and for the weird-ass playlists I put together on Spotify and every other damn thing. And also for my Patreon page. If you are in a position and inclined, throw some coin of the realm my way over on Patreon. It will be immensely appreciated. Having said that, I know we're all tightening the proverbial belt a little these days, so there is no pressure in the slightest. And to my patron Paul, a huge thank you.
We love you, Paul.
We love Paul. Comments coming in. Shill, yes. And Dave's dropping Julie's links in the chat as well. Thank you so much, Dave. Fantastic.
Sorry, honey.
Let's see. Oh, and David's got the link to the chatty room right there in the chat. All right. Well, I'm going to close things out over here, and then do a couple of administrative things on the YouTube side, and then I will move over to the Discord if anybody wants to chat. Thank you, Paul, for that great idea. I would not have come up with that on my own. All right. Well, until we convene again, as always, everybody take care, be safe. Remember to stand against hate. and wash your hands. Bye now. End broadcast. Yes. Check box.